I can see your screen.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, so would on our agenda would have a welcome and overview of the meeting. Secondly, would have fundamentals of fundraising by our facilitator and the question and answer session for 5 minutes, then announcements by myself and feedback and general questions. Okay, so let's begin. I would introduce our facilitator. Um, okay, so today's session is on the fundamentals of fundraising, and it's going to be very insightful and educating as well. So I would want you to take notes, and we have our facilitator joining the call very early. Thank you so much, Ms. Chinwe. We're excited to have you. So I will just read a brief of our profile because I know she has a lot to talk about. So Ms. Chinwe is an experienced fundraiser with a wealth of experience that she would share with us. She has worked in various organizations, and she had success in healthcare and philanthropy. So she's going to give us a practical experience of fundraising, both practical and theoretical experience of fundraising. And so I want us to have expectations, because this session is going to give us more ideas on how we would carry out our projects, our plans, and everything we have outlined for these internship sessions. So please have your notes ready. When it's time to ask questions, be ready to come up with practical life experience that you want Ms. Chinwe to answer, because she's here to give us all the insights and everything we would need for fundraising. So thank you, Ms. Chinwe. We're excited to have you. Please, you can proceed.
Thank you, and I'm happy to be here. Being a fundraiser is not really a very known occupation, right? So people ask you what you do, and you say you're a fundraiser. And then crickets, right? They really want to know exactly what that means, because we're used to saying people are doctors, lawyers, teachers, traders, small business owners. But a fundraiser, what is that? So even when I started my career, I had no idea I was going to end up in fundraising. So I've been doing this for about 18 years now, and it's great. But there's so much knowledge that I've acquired that I'm so happy to pass along, especially to young people, right? And then you interns, my only advice is just see this African policy conversation program as a stepping stone to the beginning of your career. I believe they have a wealth of information and resources that you guys can tap into. Take advantage of it. Build your resumes, kickstart your career, network amongst each other, carry yourself very well. That's my advice to you. Having said that, I wanted to start off with, when you hear fundraising, what are the fundamentals of fundraising? Is it all about just asking money? Yes, fundraising is about getting people or entities to support what you believe in. So I'm going to talk from a perspective of someone that works for a nonprofit, right? I don't own my own nonprofit. I have resources available to me. I have people I work with. I have a budget. I have, software and all kinds of resources to raise money. So, but as I go along, we can also use some of the knowledge I have and apply to people that have very limited resources, people that are one-shop nonprofits, right? You own your own nonprofit or your foundation and you're the sole worker. You're the only person working there, right? So even if I have all these resources, as you map out questions, just ask me how we can apply all this information to someone that has very limited resources, okay? So fundraising. So if you want to fundraise for anything, for any cause, you're hired, it's something personal. The first thing you need to have is a very strong case statement. Why should I give you money? Why should anybody fund you, right? You need to have a very, very compelling case statement stating your mission, your goal, what you need the money for, what it's going to fund. You have to convince people that if they give you the money, you can make a difference in the lives of people and your community. There's just something about telling someone, give me money and I'll make your community safer for you, for your family, for your neighbors, for your children. That resonates with them, right? You always have to have a very strong and convincing case statement. The other thing is, um, who are you going to fundraise from? Like, who are you asking? You have to know your potential donors. Are you going after your business partners? If you work for an organization where they have business partners, right? Meaning people that supply them with anything, they are suppliers. Are you going to go after the staff? I mean, if you work for a big nonprofit and you're fundraising, your staff members, your colleagues are also potential donors, right? If you provide services, let's say you are a hospital and you provide healthcare services to people and their families, those people are your potential donors. So anyone you provide services to, you can ask them for money. Your board members, right? People that are not affiliated with your organization, but they believe in what you're doing. They believe in the cause, right? So again, a very strong case statement as to why people should support you. The people you have to keep in mind, have an idea of the people that you want to ask for money. And also, what are the various fundraising channels? Like, if you're going to ask somebody for money, give them different opportunities. And I'm going to touch on about 4 of them today. So, how are you going to ask people for money? Are you just going to walk up to them and ask for money? How do you reach out and state your case and ask them for money? And I, for one, can tell you that if you're a fundraiser, you need data to drive your fundraising. Now, the most basic data that you need to fundraise would be you have to know the person's name, probably their title, how they need to be addressed. You need to know their address, their email address, their phone number. These are just basic, right? For people that fundraise for big entities like a hospital, if you have an idea what kind of service the person received through your program, it's also good to have that. If you know the person's gender, that's also great. You know their age, fine. But just the basic information is what you need. So you always need data. And I always know you need data to run your fundraising, to fundraise. You always need data, right? So, and then, go ahead. Go ahead. If you don't ask people for money, they will not support you. People always give to a place that they or their family members receive services from, or people that ask them money. Once in a while, people give out of the blue, but that's very rare. So you really have to ask. You really have to ask people for money. And then the final thing is when you get these donors, what do? You have to maintain a relationship with them. You have to look for ways to steward them. Okay. So having said that, I don't know if anyone has any questions now. I would like to go into about 4 different fundraising channels. If it's okay, I can start. If I have no questions about these little fundamentals, what you need to have in place, of course, you have to have a budget, right? If you're lucky to be hired to fundraise, then there's a budget, you're compensated, you have some of the tools you need, you have software you need. But if you don't have all these things, again, you can ask me how you can collect your data. You can ask me how you can, expand your network. So let me go directly into the different fundraising channels. first one I want to talk about is what's known as direct mail. Direct mail appeal, meaning you draft a letter and you send it off to people, your potential donors. It's not just any letter. Again, you have to have a very compelling letter, a story. If you can tell a story, if you ask me for money, if you're trying to ask me for money, and you know I am passionate about healthcare, you want to, in that letter, write a very strong, convincing letter. Tell me a story. Tell me a story about someone who lives somewhere and that might benefit from my support, right? A very strong statement, like strong story that resonates with the potential donor, right? Also, a very good direct mail appeal would have different giving levels tied to programs. So if you're asking me to support women's health, right? And you tell me for $10, you said, Miss Chinwe, for $10, I can ensure that 10 girls have access to um, sanitary pad, right? Or for $100, I can ensure that little kids have access to malaria treatment if you tie that, because people have different capacities, right? You want to be able to tie money, different giving levels to what they can support in that letter, right? Also, if you have a target group, it's always good to segment your list. So if you have like 500 people you want to send this letter out to, if for any reason you have an idea of their capacity levels, you can take the people that you believe are high capacity individuals and personalize their letters. There's one thing sending someone a letter, but when they receive the letter and they see you have a pen, you just take a pen and you write on the letter, "Dear Miss Chima, thank you for reading this letter." Just something that shows that there's a human touch. That person is more likely to respond to that appeal. So personalize. And also don't be shy by asking me exactly how much you want. So if you know I have capacity, it's okay to say, Miss Chinwe, can you give me $50? Can you support us this month or this week with just $50? As opposed to saying, just support us with anything, right? So personalizing an appeal letter, putting in an ask amount, segmenting it, getting tying dollar amounts to programs, right? Makes it a very strong appeal letter. Also, when you send an appeal letter, make sure that you give the potential donor the opportunity to make a donation. So there's something we call BREs, they're business reply envelopes. You can put it in there with and they can return the envelope with money, with their credit card information, or with cash or a check, But nowadays, people have QR codes. You can have a very good appeal letter, and at the back, just have a QR code that links directly to a website or to a donation page, right? So again, that appeal letter, you have to make it in such a way that you have to draft it in such a way that you're convincing the person to give, right? But again, tied to their community. Your support will ensure that our young girls are safer in this community. Your support will ensure that the homelessness rate will drop. So they want to see that, you're tied into their community. And then when they're giving, they know they're giving for a greater good. It's not just for them, but they know they're making a difference in their community. Once you send an appeal letter, I always recommend a follow-up phone call. Always follow up with a phone call. Give it a week or 2 weeks. If you have the potential donor's number, call and say, ask them if they received the letter. And sometimes they'll say, no, they haven't received it, or they misplaced it because you resend it. So always be prepared to resend an appeal letter, and always have a PDF version of anything you send. Because if they have an email, it's even easier, email it. So you can also do the hard copy mailing and an email version if you have their email address, okay? So that's direct mail appeal. And some nonprofits tend to have a calendar of how they send these mailings out. Some do it once a year, twice a year. Most people do it at year end. towards the holiday season. They send it out. And then they do also a follow-up email of people, live bunts like last year, but not called live bunts, of people who did not respond a couple months later. So I don't know if anyone has any questions right now in terms of what I said about what I talked about in direct mail appeal. If there are no questions, I'm not checking the chat, but if there are no questions, I could go to events. Now, events are a very good way to raise money. You always have to find out what works for your entity. If you have a small shop, what works for you? Some people do sporting events, right? They could do a tennis tournament. It could be a golf tournament. People do galas. They do like upscale galas. If you have the budget, you can do an upscale gala where you can invite a guest speaker, like a celebrity. You know, you can do something small. It could be a bake sale. It could be a wine tasting. It could be as simple as, you know, just you're selling flowers, something basic. It could be a silent auction, something that works for you if you have the budget, right? And then for events, you always have to plan ahead. If you're planning for an event for this summer, you're already late. It takes like a full year. You have to, so any events you're planning, any fundraising events you're planning, depending on the scope of the event, you need months. So way ahead of time, you have to secure the location, right? If you have people you're inviting, you have to send out a save the date so that people can mark their calendars. People are so busy, right? And their calendars get full easily. So the save the date goes out. The invitation goes out. It's also advisable to ask for sponsors. You know, sometimes you have like big corporations sponsoring your events, but if you're a small shop and you can't even afford to get someone to sponsor you at that level, you can go to your local pharmacy. You can walk up to them and say, I'm having this event. Would you be kind enough to support? You know, if you support us with $50, you know, we'll have your name mentioned. We'll have your name in our signage as one of our sponsors, right? So people go as far as inviting just to give their event more effect. They will invite like maybe an honoree. They'll honor someone. They might invite a celebrity to come and chair the event, right? Um, there's also a piece of events that's very, very important is the volunteer aspect of it. Like people who you ask to help with registration. They help with putting things together. They help with the coordination, especially if you don't have the budget to hire. It's good to get volunteers. Internships, like interns, like yourselves, right? If someone would approach you to volunteer for an event, that's something good to have on your resume. High school students are great volunteers. They would love to have that exposure. Sometimes, if you're able to provide them with a snack or lunch or very small stipend, sometimes nothing, but just giving them that exposure. They like that exposure. So, also having volunteers and trying to manage those volunteers is also a big part of events, right? Next thing I want to talk about is grants. So, there are so many foundations and corporations out there that will provide grants, small grants, large grants, right? Some of these grants could be restricted, right? If they give you money, they want to make sure that it's for the program and service that you indicated, right? Sometimes it's unrestricted. You can use it for operational needs. My recommendation is if you want to apply for grants, first of all, you have to do your research. You have to research funders that will support the programs that you provide or what you want to raise money for. And some places, they want to invite you to apply for a grant. So you can't just apply for a grant blindly. If you read their guidelines, they'll say, you can only apply if you're invited, right? So while you do your research, you have to find out who the grants manager is, right? And establish a relationship with that grants manager. Just reach out and say, I'm just calling for guidance. If they don't give you a grant this year or next year, one day, just as long as you have your foot in the door, establish that relationship. You might get funding in the future. So reach out to that grants manager. It could be a phone call, it could be an email. Just say, introduce yourself, introduce what you're raising money for, and just ask that you want to get to know them better. You're looking for guidance, right? Because every grant has a cycle. There are certain times, certain periods where you can apply. There's a deadline. And there are certain documents you have to submit. So just speaking or communicating or having that relationship with that grants manager could make it easier. Okay, there are different guidelines, there are different documents you have to submit. Just make sure you have everything ready, right? So again, there are so many people that can fund. There are so many grantors out there, both on the continent, out here in the diaspora, a lot. You just have to do your research, zero in on the ones that will support you. And they always tell you, we only support XYZ. You know, it could be for certain programs. It could be for even training, right? Some people think you can only apply for grants if you want to provide a program or service. Sometimes operational could be training, right? Just applying for money to train your staff to go for a training. There are people that, there are entities, there are foundations and corporations that will actually support that. Okay. So we've talked about direct mail appeal, we've talked about events, and we've talked about grants. Now, the fourth one I want to mention is face-to-face solicitation. I know some people say, oh, you know, I'm not a great speaker, it's hard for me. Again, you have to have a compelling case statement, compelling, like, what is it that, how can you convince someone to give you money? Face-to-face solicitations do work. You have to be able to know who you're going after, because if someone has religious restrictions or they are in the middle of their fasting or, you know, whatever it is, you can't schedule a meeting during that time. So you really have to get to know the person very well. If the person is elderly, you know, what time of the day do you schedule? Do you take the person out to lunch, take them out to dinner, you grab coffee, you grab tea? But anytime you say to someone, I would like to meet with you about, I'd like to talk to you about XYZ program, they know you're coming to solicit them. And people get solicited all the time, believe you me, especially on the continent. If in churches, do you see the amount of solicitations that happen, the fundraising that happen in churches? It's unbelievable. People get solicited outside a church, within the church. So I'm just saying it's possible to secure a meeting with someone and ask. It's not difficult to ask, but you have to get to know the person very well first. You schedule, you have to go in there with an agenda, persuade the person, let them know how much of a difference they could make if they support you. And don't be scared to ask how, like, for an amount, especially if you know the person's capacity, especially if you know if this person has funded programs similar to yours or is a high net worth individual. You go in there keeping in mind how much you can ask this person. Sometimes you might ask them for a lot of money. They might meet you halfway. They might say, no, it's not a good time. But the fact that you were able to secure a meeting with them, it's great. And I know, and it's not just face to face, right? You can also text, right? You could text someone. It doesn't have to be if you cannot secure a face to face solicitation, you can do a text. You guys have an idea of the type of solicitations that are happening through WhatsApp. I believe the most fundraising that's going on right now on the continent and globally is done through WhatsApp. People are asking people for money. People are telling them what their donation can support, right? And anytime you secure a meeting with somebody, listen to them. You're not going there to just talk and talk and talk. Just listen to them. Listen to what their passion is. You know, what drives them? How would they, you can even ask, what would you like to see done differently in this community? What kind of change would you like to see? There are master classes on making the big ask, So I've touched on direct mail, talked about events, talked about grants, in-person solicitation. The last thing I want to talk about is stewardship. So let's say you eventually get a few people to make a donation to support your cause. You always have to steward them. You always have to maintain a relationship with them. Those who have the resources will do what we call monthly impact emails. Every month, they'll send an email out telling you, thanking you for supporting the program and telling them what's happening. Like, here's what we're doing. Here are the new initiatives that we have started, keeping them informed, making them feel valued. If you know your donor's birthday, or birth month, just call and say, I'm calling to wish you a happy birthday. Those little touches matter. Excuse me. It matters a lot. Just calling somebody. If you know they're celebrating a religious holiday, I'm calling to happy Easter, happy Ramadan, all those things. That small talk, how's the family? Just making them feel that you care about them. How's the family? How are your children? You know, and then even just from experience, like sometimes I'll have like a weekly phone calls. I have a list of people to call just to say thank you for their donations. It happens, I do it every single week, calling them, thanking them. And then sometimes, and then when I interact with them, I save the information so that the next time I speak with them and I remind them and I say, oh, how's your mother? You told me your mother was going in for knee surgery. How is she doing? It's intentional. I care, but also it's also the art of stewardship, right? I'm trying to make that donor feel that I care about them. Little touches, little emails, maintain that relationship. They are more likely to become a repeat donor if you maintain that relationship. Okay. And for some people, for some entities that are very lucky, a long-term donor, a repeat donor that has capacity will usually name you in their estate plans. They will name you in their will. We've had people in my organization that have made donations, like $10 donations every year, and they passed away and they ended up leaving money for the organization. Now, if we didn't maintain that relationship with them, they won't think about us. So stewardship is very, very important. Okay. So I don't know if anyone has any questions, but one more thing I'd like to talk about is the whole AI. Everyone is talking about AI, chat boxes, chat GPT, there's Copilot, all kinds of things. For us fundraisers, it's one of the best things that has happened to us because we're able to streamline some of our processes, right? Our thank you letters. Not that we can't write, right? We have thank you letters, but we can take it and feed it into, Chat GPT, and it gives us a different, a more enhanced thank you. Our thank you emails, our impact email. So we're able to. Okay. Should I go on? I saw the message there. Okay.
Oh, yes.
So we're go on, right? Okay. So we're able to streamline some of our processes, but the one thing I would love people to do is I see people who just type in, oh, draft me a thank you letter, draft me something. And then the chat GPT drafts it and then they take it and they feed and they share that. No. What I'll advise anyone using these services is draft your own message. Draft it. Feed it into the chat GPT, but say rewrite. So just rewrite and put a colon and put your original message and tell the system that I would like you to rewrite this, but make it more subtle. Avoid the big words. Because haven't you guys seen like messages from people and you can tell, oh my God, that was so AI generated. You don't want it to look like that. Always have your original message, feed in your original message. and then tell it what to do. And I always advise people to log in, like create the account. You have to teach the system what your preferences are, everything about you. So you could say, always address me as princess, or always address me as Chinwe. Here's my background. Here's what I want to do. So the ChatGPT will know exactly what your lingo is. And when they, when they draft messages for you, all those big words, unwavering support, that lets it know that it's very, very ChatGPT, they take it out. The system will take it out. So you have to personalize it as much as possible. Tell them what you are. Tell them, well, I'm a fundraiser, or I work as XYZ for African Policy Conversations, and here's what we do. And here's what I want you to do. You have to tell the system what to do. Okay? I keep saying that's my last, but I have just one more and I'm done. It's return on investment. So I told you about this direct mail that we do at year end. We also do like a series of mailings throughout the year. A good way to know if those mailings are effective is what we call the ROI. You do your return on investment, right? On each mailing, you know how much you send out, you know how much it costs for each mailing divided by the number of mailings that went out. You know how much you raised, and then you calculate and see if your ROI, if it's worth it, if your return on investment is high. Sometimes you might see a negative and you question, is it worth doing this particular mailing if we're losing money? If your return on investment is high, then you know it's good. And then you say, how can I enhance this one? How can I enhance it to make it even return like a higher ROI? Okay, so that's all I have for today. But I also wanted to say I'm very happy to have like additional like workshops, additional 30-minute workshops when it's convenient for both the interns and myself. So we can break down each of these areas. Okay, so I'm very happy to share all this information with you. I try to make it as simple as possible. I hope it made a lot of sense, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, ma'am. So that was really insightful. Thank you so much. My notes are full already. Like I was actually taking notes. Thank you so much. Yes, I could see some hands are raised, and yes, our convener, Ms. Chine, your hands are raised. I think you have something to say.
Yes, I just wanted to start by saying a big thank you to Chinwe for sharing from her wealth of knowledge. I personally, fundraising is something I struggle. So I'm an action person. I'm a doer, but when it comes to the funding, it tends to be difficult. So I will just ask, like, what would be your maybe one or two
You're breaking up.
Yeah, you're breaking
key
up.
points for AFPC, Africa Policy as an organization? Over the years, we've made a lot of impacts. We're focused on so many critical issues that surround, nation building, youth empowerment. Oh, let me see if I can change my. Oh, anybody hear me? Is it better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, awesome. Okay, no. So just any tips for Africa Policy Conversations? Now we have this cohort of interns. We have a
Yeah.
working with fundraising. Um, we have some ideas around the impact we want to make in terms of in the area of governance, in the area of policies. So I know fundraising takes time, but if you were to give us like maybe one or two practical, things that we can do between now and maybe the next 2-3 months to be able to secure some funding. We have an upcoming conference in May, convention, And we also have a capstone project that we're working on, the interns are working on, which, obviously if we have funding, we'll be able to do a lot more with. So that's my question. Thank you.
You're welcome. So you guys have done so much. Like, people already know who African Policy Conversations, people already know who you are, right? At this point, if you're able to secure meetings with high net worth individuals in Nigeria, I think at this point, I see some of the programs, there's a lot of
Our cohort is actually on our program. So people on this call are from 12 different African countries, 13 different.
Oh,
So, yes.
Okay. So have you tried grant funding? Because I feel like you need people that could just sit down and do the research and find out funding that's available. The funding is out there. You have to find it through research. You have to find it. It's out there. You just need time to go and do your research and find out the funders that will support whatever you want to raise money for. And you have to have a template, a letter of introduction, a strong award-winning letter of introduction, and a proposal. So I think that's one way to get funding externally, globally. And with the interns you have right now, I think putting them to task on, doing the research. And there are so many samples of letters of introductions and proposals out there. To craft one, have a template that works for you. And you need them to also reach out to the program officers. So you have to have this framework of how you're going to get the grants. Who's reaching out to these program officers? Who's working on the LOI and the proposals? Who's doing the gathering of information? Because to submit these proposals, you need to have their certain documentation. You need to. So I'll say, look into that grants.
Okay. So we will take you up on the offer of the coming back for a mini 30-minute workshop when we are now working on the proposal, because we do have a working group already for fundraising.
Okay.
The people who
Good.
apply specifically to be on the fundraising track of things. And so
Okay.
for the past weeks, we've just been doing like settling in, but we do want to
Good.
target like having a budget both for the upcoming conference, for the capstone project. We want our interns to also be able to benefit as well, to have a financial reward. And that's why we need the grants, because internally we don't have the funding to do that. So and then we're also a US registered nonprofit as well in the US and South Africa. So we don't only have to limit our fundraising to Nigeria. I just wanted to give you that background as well, because the projects we do and our members are not only limited here. So yeah, but I'll just pause for now because I want to let others have an opportunity to also ask their questions. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Ms. Chine. Yes, Rutendo, you can go on with your question.
Okay, hello, and thank you for this opportunity. So, my question is mainly based on what's occurring right now, in the sense that the USAID has pulled out most of its funding, and you actually realize that the tables are no longer as balanced as they used to be. So, how then do I identify a potential sponsor or donor when I am networking, considering that things are a bit shaky right now?
Thank you for your question. So I think people on the continent were very used to, I don't want to say we're very dependent on external philanthropy. It's time for us to start looking within. Forget about external, forget about the help. Start with your network. Start with your network. Start with the people around you. Who can you convince to support a cause that you believe in? Who can you bring on board? It's doable. It's doable because I know, and Miss Chineye is very aware of this. Last year, I traveled to Nigeria. My mother was not feeling well. She was very sick. And I went to the hospital where she received care. And I looked at the hospital and I couldn't believe it. It was okay, but they needed funding. And she's based over there. So I thought to myself, what can I do without applying for a grant or asking for someone? I had to think of something I could do internally with my own network, within my own network. And what did I do? I said, I'm going to raise money for this hospital. I started a WhatsApp group. I brought in my network, my friends, my family, my colleagues, and I said to them, look, the situation is dire. All I need, if you give me $10, I can buy this. If you give me $20, we can do this. I started small. And believe it or not, we have raised, let me see, we have raised almost $9,000. I think we've raised $9,000. We also raised money in Nigerian currency, in Naira, in the millions. But I'm just saying, you'll be surprised if you start small, if you're able to tell a good story, if you're able to start like locally, you'll be surprised at how, because our people generally are philanthropic people, right? Let's stop looking outwards. Yes, you can apply for grants, but you can also start from within. So that's what I would advise people to start doing right now, because think about it, in churches, have you seen the pastors and the priests? They're very good fundraisers. They raise money. If you can raise money for the church, you can raise money for healthcare. You can raise money for something else. You just have to think about a way to tell your story to make it very convincing. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Chinwe. Teniel, yes, your hands are raised. Kindly ask your question.
Yes, thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Ms. Chinwe, for your very insightful perspective on fundraising. I think this is a very integral part of any organization, foundation, anyone or entity that is trying to raise money or funds for a project. I have two questions. My first one being, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face personally or professionally within your foundation with fundraising? And the second one is, how have you or your colleagues utilized social media? I feel like social media is a great middle to, or vessel to sort of connect with other funders. So yeah, I just wanted your perspective on those two questions.
Yeah, I'll start with the social media. So in terms of fundraising, we and fundraisers everywhere are utilizing social media as much as possible. When I check my email and I see a like organization or another healthcare organization doing something in social media, I bring it to my own colleague and say, hey, this is what they're doing. So you have to be available in all the social media platforms. So if we're doing an event, right, it gets advertised everywhere. Click on this link to be a part of this event. You click, you'll see all the different levels to attend the event. So we publicize our events, we publicize our fundraising initiatives through all the social media handles. We're utilizing emails as much as possible. That's why for any intake, any collection program that we're having in terms of getting people's data, we always ask for email, always ask for email address, because we feel like that's a great way to let people know who you are. And then it's also a great way to also raise money, right? In terms of my personal experience, I can tell you that when I try to, outside of work, when I try to tell people what I do, it's hard to explain because I come from a huge family and I have family, a huge family. They have like their backgrounds are either in education or healthcare or medicine. So when it comes to me and I tell people I fundraise, they say, what is that? But when I break it down as to what I do, they become very, very interested in what I do. I've had some, personal experiences, but the most important thing is I always try to maintain my integrity. I always try to focus. I always try to make sure that my work, the quality of my work speaks for itself.
Wow, thank you so. Yeah, I could see the thumbs up. Thank you so much, Tineo, and thank you, Ms. Chinwe. Yes, does anybody have a question? Okay, so there's a question on the chat box from Marion, and she said, would you say the stoppage of US aid fund towards Africa was a wake-up call for Africa and it turned a good cause?
I feel like it's a wake-up call. I mean, that's one that's publicized and we all know about. Are there other things that we could consider a wake-up call? Maybe. But then again, we have to look internally. We have to start spreading that culture of philanthropy wherever we are. I keep on saying the church, the religion is doing such a great job at that. When I visited last year, and the priest in the church was fundraising, I turned to my mother and I said, this guy is fundraising. He was using stories. He was using data. He was cultivating people in church. He was getting them involved in this conversation. He was using examples. I said, this guy, if we can apply that to other areas, I think, yes, it's a wake-up call. It is a wake-up call. So I think we need to start looking for ways to spread that culture of philanthropy to, come on, people like food, right? People like recognition. Can you have an event, and it's like an inspiring event where you can invite people to sit down and you cook and give them food and tell them what you want to do. Tell them that you would like to make your neighborhood safer. Tell them that you want to provide XYZ services over a good meal. They will give you money. Come with your compelling stories. I have this opportunity that I'm a fundraiser. I don't know, maybe I only know a handful of fundraisers that look like me. Now that I have this opportunity, I'm happy to help people. I'm happy to share this information I have. I'm very happy. I mentioned having started a WhatsApp fundraising group. If you would like to start a fundraiser through your WhatsApp, I am happy to sit down and do a workshop with people so that you can begin to apply these things. Knowledge is power. I can't hold on to all of this and keep it for myself. I am happy to have a workshop where I can teach you. You want to raise money for your local school? Okay, let's do it. 30 minutes and then we get it done.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Chinwe. So we are looking forward to that workshop, that conversation. And
Yes.
I believe it to be more of a practical, experience sharing session and all, and we get a lot of insight from it. Thank you, Ms. Chinwe. It's been a pleasure to have you, and we're excited, and we're looking forward to, have that conversation with you. Do we have any other question? Okay, Vanessa, I have a question on grants as a fundraising channel. She said, may you please explain more on proposals and how to craft them perhaps some critical aspects of these proposals and how to make budgets that are compelling enough?
Yeah, the first thing is both a proposal and a letter of intent. So before the proposal, some grantors will tell you to submit an LOI. They'll tell you just send a one-page letter of intent. Tell us why you need this money. Tell us where it's going to. Tell us how much you need. A one-pager. From that one-pager, they'll get like hundreds of those. They'll decide who they will invite to send a proposal. Now, again, there are many classes out there. There are master classes on how to craft a winning proposal. If you go on Google, it will tell you. But the key is when you read the application, when you read what they're telling you to put in the proposal, make sure that whatever they ask you is answered in the proposal. If they say, tell us how you're going to evaluate this program once we give you this money, it has to be in that proposal. The key is looking at exactly what they want. And that's why I always say, talk to the grants manager, talk to the person in charge of this grant. They will give you more guidance. I'm not an expert. I won't call myself an expert in grant funding, writing proposals. But the key is interacting with the program manager because they manage it. They manage the money. They know exactly what they want. And any questions you have, ask the grants manager. And they'll be able to tell you exactly how. And you can even send in a proposal and tell the grants manager, could you review this and tell me where I need it? They love that interaction. Tell me where I can, what area needs more work. Tell me if I answered this question. Tell me, and they will get back to you. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Vanessa, yes, yeah, I could see the thumbs up and all. All right, Ms. Chinwe, thank you so much for being part of this session. We look forward to that conversation. Thank you. So we'll move further to the next agenda, which is announcement. Ms. Chinwe, if you're busy, you can log off while we continue with the session.
Thank you so much for having me. Again, interns, please take advantage of the resources, the wealth of information from African Policy Conversations. Network, build your resumes. This might help you kickstart your career. So thank you. And everyone, have a great day and remain blessed.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
All right, so I hope we learned a thing or two, and I hope we took notes as well. All right, so moving forward to the next agenda is announcements. But first, like we said before we started the internship, that there would be evaluations, and we listed out the criteria, the key milestones, and parameters as well. So for last week, which was our onboarding and orientation week, we had certain people who were top on the charts in terms of participation, attendance, and a lot of criteria. So first, I'm just going to make mention of their names. First, we have Vanessa, we have Alina, we have Wanjuri, Victor, Toby Oluwatimileyin, Marion, Abasi Odong, Ivan, Oyindamola Martins, Mapa, James, Veronica, and Tiniel. Thank you so much. Your participation, your attendance has been top-notch. Yes, I could see the virtual round of applause. Yes. So we look forward to more of these contributions from everyone. And I also want to make mention that irrespective of the fact that when we call for sessions like this, it might not be what you want to, what your thematic area is, but we encourage everyone to participate. We encourage you to be online because you will learn a thing or two from the session. So secondly, I will move to our tax. So we've created a tax sheet, and that was sent to everyone last week or this week, yeah. So please, on that tax sheet, what is expected from you is select a tax sheet, write your name on the tax sheet, and you identify the tax you're working on, as well as a deadline for each tax. Because I've been going through the tax sheets and I could see that a lot of people have not selected theirs, and we still have a lot of tax sheets unattended to. Please ensure that you write your names on the tax sheet. Secondly is there are interns who have asked to join more than one group. Now, like I said, before we started creating the groups, please, if you're joining more than one group, ensure to participate, be active on the group, because we now have our team leads on each group. So if, for instance, we notice that a team member who is part of a group or on a thematic area, you're not participating, you're not active, the team lead would have to remove you from that group, and maybe you would have to join other groups. But please, I would encourage everyone, if you're in more than two groups, at least two groups, please be active, please contribute. Ensure that the tasks that are being sent to the group, you're actually working on the tasks. You're participating. We want to see that from you. Another thing is the advisory AFPC International Convention. We've created a committee and we have a WhatsApp group for that. Please, for the WhatsApp group, we'll be having a meeting by next week, Monday or Tuesday, but you'll be well informed on the day and the time. So we'll go over our plans for the international convention and all. Now the floor is open for questions. If you have any question, or you have a feedback for us, or you have something you would want to share with us, please let us know. And I would also want to acknowledge the co-founder of the Africa Policy Conversation, Ms. Uchechi. Thank you for joining the call. I don't know if you have something to say, or I should proceed.
Please go ahead. You're doing a fantastic job, Perry. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending. We had a good time listening to Chinwe. So well done, Perry.
All right, thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah, so the floor is open for feedback, questions. If you have anything you would want to share with the team, please kindly proceed. Another thing is, I had said before this training that if you're joining a session, please join with a device that has your name. I could see someone, user, your name is not included. Please, who has the device user? Because I've taken attendance of this session and I don't want to miss out on this person.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, please, what's your name?
My name is Ibrahim Shoaib Ibrahim, and it seems the attendance, my name is Kid, because I have been experiencing a network glitch. I don't know.
Are you the same person as user?
Yes, with my username, yeah.
Okay, so can you speak to me with the user?
No, ma'am. My name is Ibrahim Shoaib Ibrahim, and it is on my ID.
Okay, so it's not you, Ibrahim.
Oh, sorry, I think it's me.
Yes, what's your name, please?
My name is Eva Kihupi.
Eva, okay, Eva, okay. So it's noted. So when next you're joining the call, please join with your name. There's a way you can edit this user.
Yes, yes.
PC user, yes. So please join your name.
Yes. I think it's a mistake on my part. I'm supposed to log in with my account. I think I used a different device this time. So it's not gonna be a problem next time, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Eva. All right, does anyone has a question or feedback? Okay, so Okay, Tinio, yes, go on.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to remind all the interns to be checking the WhatsApp group weekly, so we know that we are going to be having either weekly discussions on Friday or fireside chats. So please be prepared for announcements in the announcement page, where it says it has the community guidelines and group. And to also be checking your emails, just so that you guys are joining on time and are aware of each meeting and the Zoom link. So yeah, I just wanted to give a reminder for that.
Well, thank you, Tinio. Yes, do we have any other feedback or contributions? All right. So
So
thank
just
you.
a quick one. I just want to thank everyone who has been attending thus far. You know, with the work we want to do, some of us who are very driven, we're very passionate. We also need to understand that we need a strategy for fundraising, and that's why we decided to have this session earlier on, so that with everything that we're thinking about and proposing, we're thinking about how to actually connect with funders. And so in line with that, based on everything that has been discussed, we propose that we're going to have another meeting, which is like, but that will be like a workshop kind of meeting. And so for everyone, and I'll coordinate this with Per and Tenel, the people who are in the fundraising group, not just the people who are in fundraising group, but every other working group as well. We need to come up with a fundraising strategy for the things that we want to achieve as a cohort. And we want to be able to, because I know a lot of people asked in the beginning, oh, is this a paid internship or is it an unpaid internship? We would love it to be a paid internship, but guess what? We need to find the funds. So this is something I want us to take as a collective effort, right? Because we know that there are funds that are out there. We just need to dedicate time to researching it and then, being able to give ourselves a timeline. So all the different things that she explained she's not just telling us these things for us to just think about it today and then just forget about it tomorrow. No. Can we build a network based on, starting from AFPC, our network, we have a good following online. We also have people who have been in our community as speakers, as partners, whatever the case might be. That's one. So how can we leverage what we have, be it our social media handles, our following? How can we launch a fundraising campaign that we can use, communicate across and say, these are the things that we have coming up in the next couple of months. We have a capstone project. This is what the interns are working on. And we want people to support our work as a community, as a cohort, right? And we do it in such a way that it's transparent and such a way that it's also sustainable as well. So this is something I want us to really think through. Like I said, we'll coordinate it. We want the fundraising working group to spearhead it, but it's a collective exercise because any change that we want to see, any impact that we want to see, we need to find ways to sort of sustain it. And then finally, because the funding landscape is also shifting, we know that the USAIDs of this world and some of these organizations are pulling funding. There's still some people out there, private foundations and the likes, philanthropists, high net worth individuals, are people in the diaspora in different places who are looking for trusted platforms, who might want to support, but they don't have the time to support, or they don't have the, bandwidth, or whatever the case might be. So we need to figure out how we can make enough noise on our platform to be able to attract the attention of those people. And so let's take this as a call to action for everyone. It's a call to action because it would also fit into our success, failure, and the goals that we want to achieve at the end of the day. I also just also want to tell you all that apart from this internship program, you all are part of our community. Once you've done this internship program, you're part of our community. So let's say, for those, maybe you're in Uganda or you're in Kenya. If we ever wanted to do anything there, you'd be the first person. So you're like our ambassador, you're like our, and So it goes both ways. And if you want to do something, you can also reach out to us, you can reach out to the community, and it's an ongoing thing. The reason why we're having all these topics and bringing people to speak is because we know that when that foundation is laid and the knowledge is imparted and, all these skill sets are acquired, we don't want you to just hold on to it. We want you to actually use it to go into your communities, to your countries, to your spheres of influence and make a difference. We want to be able to see leaders emerge, be it nonprofit leaders, be it political leaders, be it business leaders, all sorts of greatness and success emerge from this cohort. We want to look back in 10 years, in 5 years, in 2 years and say, oh, this such and such person, is an alumni of our internship program, and now they've gone on to achieve XYZ, XYZ. So see this as a lifelong thing, right? Don't see it as something you're just coming for, you just want to spend a few days or a few weeks and then you go. No. So I just wanted to reiterate the mandate, the call to action. We're doing something that is long-term. We're doing something that's transformational. We want to raise leaders for the continent, people who will lead in different sectors, different spheres of influence. And that's why the topics are general. We're just, because as a leader too, you also need to understand a lot of things too as well. So that's why we're making sure that there's that diversity and range in some of the things that you're being taught as well. So on that note, I want to thank everyone and I look forward to further engagements.
All right, so thank you so much, ma'am. Do we have any other question? Okay, I could see a question on the chat box. You're yet to be added to the WhatsApp group. You'll receive a link shortly. Yes. All right. So thank you, everyone. Do have a lovely day and a lovely weekend as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.